Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into the incredibly dramatic rise and, well, literal erosion of Murshidabad's history. We're going to take a journey from ancient geographical texts straight through to the glorious but super tumultuous era of the Nawabs of Bengal. And ultimately, we're going to see how a massive legacy can quite literally get washed away. So let's jump right in and see what history left behind. We are kicking off this historical investigation with a really compelling geographical mystery. You've probably heard of Siraj-ud-Daulah, right? He was Bengal's last independent Nawab and a figure who's been heavily romanticized over the years. But here's the thing. Where did his grand Harajial palace actually vanish to? Seriously, if you visit Murshidabad today hoping to see this magnificent structure, you'll find almost nothing. Zero. So, what happened?
Well, to get to the truth, we first have to bust some local myths. If you wander around Kashbagh today, local guides will probably point out these unmarked graves and confidently tell you, oh yeah, those belong to Siraj-ud-Daulah's bodyguards. But historically, no way. These cemeteries were strictly royal family burial grounds. We're talking direct family members and relatives only. Definitely not bodyguards. So, if we want the real story, we have to look past the tall tales and question the evidence.
To do that, we need to go way back and look at the ancient roots of Murshidabad.
Because long before any palaces were built, the geography of this region was already shaping its destiny. The Bhagirathi River literally cuts Murshidabad's ancient identity into two completely different zones. On the west bank, you've got the Rar region. This is your ancient clay soil, providing a super strong agricultural base. But on the east, that's the Bigri region. It boasts this incredibly fertile, alluvial soil that's constantly being shaped and replenished by the shifting river. This geographical divide is exactly what set the stage for centuries of wealth.
And I mean centuries. This area has a rich pre-Nawab history that goes all the way back to the Mahabharata era. Fast forward to the 7th century, and it was actually a thriving Buddhist hub known as Karnasuvarna. Jump again to the 12th century, and it's serving as the capital of the Sena dynasty. So the Nawabs didn't just stumble upon a random spot. They built upon a deeply historic and highly coveted piece of land.
Which brings us to the era that put the city on the global map, the independent Nawabs.
The region's golden age kicked off fast. In 1717, Murshid Quli Khan officially moves the capital here and, naturally, renames it Murshidabad after himself. Things hit their absolute peak of independent wealth and power during Alivardi Khan's 16-year rule from 1740 to 1756. But then, it just stops. This golden era ends incredibly abruptly with the brief, fateful reign of his young grandson, Siraj-ud-Daulah, which lasted for just one single year.
So let's take a closer look at Siraj-ud-Daulah, because he is the ultimate turning point in this story.
To understand why this powerful independent era collapsed so fast, we need to look at the guy in charge impartially, using actual contemporary sources. Take historian Ghulam Hussain Khan. He was an eyewitness. His father worked for the royals, and he painted a brutally critical picture. He points out that Siraj took power at just 22 or 23 years old. Khan described him as arrogant, rude, and constantly engaging in drunk, reckless behavior. And because absolutely no one dared to check the Nawab's grandson, he got away with years of terrible decisions that sealed his own fate. If you want a perfect example of just how wild and immature he was, listen to this historical anecdote. During the grand inauguration of his brand-new Harajial palace, Siraj actually lured his own grandfather, the reigning Nawab Alivardi Khan, into a room, locked the door from the outside, and laughingly refused to let him out. The ransom? His grandfather had to agree to pay for the massive maintenance costs of the palace. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So Alivardi Khan, trapped in a room and probably yelling from the inside, eventually caves to his grandson's extortion. To pay him off, he established a brand new tax called Nazrana Mansurganj. This wasn't a general tax. It was levied on a specific, dedicated market solely to fund the upkeep of his spoiled grandson's extravagant house. It is just a staggering display of unchecked privilege.
Ultimately, those reckless choices caught up with him, ushering in the era of the titular descendants.
After the Battle of Plassey, the British take control, and the once powerful Nawabs are instantly reduced to mere figureheads. It became a rapid revolving door. Mir Jafar gets installed by the British in 1757, then Mir Qasim takes a brief turn. Over the next few decades, the region falls massively into debt. The rulers have zero actual power, and it all ends with Mansur Ali Khan, who was the final titled Nawab until 1880. Now, right in the middle of this steep political decline,
there's this absolutely crazy piece of trivia. That final titled, Nawab, Syed Mansour Ali Khan, he fathered an astounding 101 children. Yep, 101 kids across his 5 wives. But eventually, completely bogged down by insurmountable debt and endless legal battles with the government, he resigned. The original Nawab title was officially abolished for good in 1880.
All right, keeping all that history in mind, it brings us right back to the mystery of the Lost Palace.
Because we still haven't answered the question, where did the palace go? Well, it turns out it boils down to one catastrophic geographical blunder. Look, smart architecture in a region with shifting rivers is pretty simple. You build on high ground, safely away from where the water might move next. But Siraj-ud-Dowlah? He chose to build Hira Jheel in a low-lying, highly flood-prone area right next to an oxbow lake. It's almost poetic, really, a stark reminder of how a leader's sheer arrogance can literally erode their own legacy.
Because of that terrible location, the palace was practically swallowed whole by the shifting landscape. Today, if you talk to modern historical explorers tracking this stuff down, finding the remnants is a serious physical trek. First, you have to pinpoint the old Oxbow Lake's coordinates on a GPS. Then, you're physically hacking your way through Wuro mango orchards and farm fields. Finally, you have to scour the muddy riverbank itself for submerged brickwork. And a pro tip from the explorers, definitely do this in the winter. You do not want to be out there dealing with the heavy, dangerous snake populations during the summer monsoons.
If you do brave that journey, just know you aren't going to find towering domes or majestic walls. Instead, you're looking for incredibly subtle architectural clues hiding in plain sight. We're talking about surviving fragments like brick floor arches completely submerged in water or ancient drainage pipes sticking straight out of the river mud. There are solid lime mortar slabs just hanging precariously over the water. Heck, there are even perfectly straight brick foundations running right through the dirt that local farmers easily mistake for natural field ridges.
And that leaves us at a fascinating crossroads to end this explainer on. We have the GPS coordinates from historical texts, and we have scattered ancient brickwork sitting right there in the river mud. But without a massive formal archaeological dig, we just can't be 100% certain. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. Are these subtle, muddy clues the definitive ruins of a magnificent palace just waiting to be unearthed? Or did the shifting river, helped along by a young ruler's reckless arrogance, successfully erase the physical truth of Bengal's last independent Nawab forever? Let that sink in.